All right, so get ready because today we're going to dive deep into game theory. You've sent us some excerpts from a college economics course,
Uh-huh.
and we're going to try to help everyone listening really get a grasp on what game theory is all about. You know, kind of like your cheat sheet to strategic thinking,
Yeah.
helping you kind of see these ideas play out in everyday situation.
Exactly. We're going to be exploring how people make decisions when the stakes are high and everyone is trying to, come out on top.
So when we say game theory, what exactly are we talking about? It's not just Monopoly and Clue,
Uh,
right?
It's a way to analyze any situation where your choices impact others and their choices impact you.
Okay.
Kind of like robbing a store.
Okay.
What does that have to do with economics? Well,
Yeah.
that's where the prisoner's dilemma comes in.
Okay.
A classic example.
All right.
I'm intrigued already. But before we get to that drama,
Yeah.
let's lay down the foundations. Our source material talks about the core elements of any game. And remember, in game theory, a game can be any situation where people are making strategic choices that affect each other.
Right.
It could be anything from, negotiating a deal to deciding where to go to dinner.
So it's really a framework for understanding how people interact strategically, but what are the ingredients of these games?
Every game has three key elements. First, you have the players.
Okay.
These are the decision makers involved,
Oh.
whether it's you and your friend deciding on a movie
Right.
or two companies competing for market share.
Got it. So the players are the ones calling the shots, but what about the choices they make?
Those are the strategies,
Okay.
the different options each player can choose from.
Okay.
So in the movie scenario, your strategies might be suggesting different genres,
Mm-hmm.
while companies might choose different pricing or marketing strategies.
Okay. And then finally, there are the payoffs. So these are essentially the outcomes, right?
Exactly. Payoffs represent what each player gets based on the choices everyone makes.
Okay.
And it's not always about money.
Right.
It could be anything of value,
Sure.
like satisfaction, time saved, or even bragging rights.
Okay. I think I'm starting to get the basics. Players, strategies, payoffs.
Yeah.
But our source also mentions this thing called common knowledge of rationality.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
It's a fancy way of saying that everyone involved in the game knows that everyone else is trying to get the best possible outcome for themselves.
Okay.
They're all trying to maximize their own payoffs, so to speak.
So it's like everyone's a master chess player constantly thinking several steps ahead.
Yeah.
But hold on, isn't that assumption of perfect rationality a bit unrealistic? I mean, people make emotional decisions all the time. How does game theory account for that?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
You're right. People aren't always perfectly rational.
Yeah.
Game theory isn't about predicting human behavior with, 100% accuracy.
Right.
Instead, it's about creating a simplified model
Okay.
to help us understand strategic thinking.
Yeah.
It gives us a framework, but we always have to consider, the messy reality of human
Wow,
emotions
of course.
and unpredictable behavior.
So it's like a strategic recipe. Players, strategies, payoffs, and a dash of rationality. But wouldn't you say that the rationality part is the trickiest ingredient?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Human behavior is complex,
Right.
and game theory acknowledges that.
Yeah.
It provides valuable insights into strategic decision-making,
Sure.
but it's not a crystal ball.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this all fits together. Now let's get to that intriguing example you mentioned earlier, the prisoner's dilemma. What makes it so special in the world of game theory?
The prisoner's dilemma perfectly illustrates the tension between self-interest and cooperation.
Okay.
It's a classic scenario that shows how, even when it seems like working together would be the best option,
Right.
individual incentives can lead to a less desirable outcome for everyone involved.
All right. I'm hooked. Let's break down this prisoner's dilemma and see what lessons we can learn from it. Okay, so let's actually dive into this prisoner's dilemma. What's the story here?
Imagine two people, let's call them Alice and Bob,
Okay.
were arrested for a crime like robbing a store.
Yeah.
They're put in separate interrogation rooms and can't communicate with each other.
Right.
The police don't have enough evidence to convict them on the major charge,
Uh-huh.
robbery, which carries a hefty 10-year sentence.
Okay.
But they do have enough to get them on a lesser charge,
Okay.
trespassing, which means a much shorter sentence
Yeah.
of, say, 3 years.
So they're already facing some time behind bars, but the big question is whether they stay silent or rat each other out.
Exactly. Each suspect is offered a deal.
Okay.
If one testifies against the other, we'll call this defecting,
Okay.
and the other stays silent, cooperating. The defector walks free,
Wow.
while the cooperator gets the full 10 years for robbery.
That's a tough choice. Betray your partner and go free. Or stay silent and risk a decade in prison. What happens if they both betray each other?
If both defect, they're both convicted of robbery,
Uh-huh.
but with a reduced sentence of 7 years for cooperating with the prosecution.
Okay, so there's a real incentive to betray. But if they both do it, they end up worse off than if they'd both just kept quiet.
Right.
This is where our source introduces this handy tool called a payoff matrix
Yeah.
to try to help us visualize the different outcomes.
The payoff matrix lays out all the possible choices and their corresponding outcomes,
Right.
making it easier to see the strategic considerations. In this case, the numbers in the matrix represent the number of years in prison,
Oh.
so lower number is better.
Right. Nobody wants to spend more time in jail than they have to. So how does this matrix work in the prisoner's dilemma?
Let's break it down. We have Alice and Bob, each with 2 options.
Yeah.
Cooperate, stay silent, or defect testify.
Okay.
If they both cooperate, they
Yeah.
each get 3 years. If one cooperates and the other defects,
Right.
the cooperator gets 10 years, and the defector goes free.
Okay.
And if they both defect, they each get 7 years.
Looking at this matrix, I can already feel the pressure. If I were in that situation, I'd be trying to get into the other person's head, trying to figure out what they're going to do.
That's the heart of strategic thinking.
Yeah.
You're trying to anticipate your opponent's move,
Right.
while also considering what's best for you.
Yeah.
So in this case, if Alice assumes Bob is rational,
Uh-huh.
she realizes that no matter what Bob chooses, she's better off defecting.
So defecting becomes her dominant strategy. It's her best bet regardless of what Bob does.
Exactly. And the same logic applies to Bob.
Yeah.
His dominant strategy is also to defect.
But wait, if they both follow their dominant strategies, they both end up with 7 years, which is worse than the 3 they would have gotten if they had cooperated. It seems almost tragic.
Right.
Like they could both be sipping cocktails on a beach somewhere if they had just trusted each other.
It really highlights the inherent difficulty of cooperation when there's a lack of trust.
Yeah.
This is where the concept of Nash equilibrium comes in.
Okay.
It's a situation where neither player can improve their outcome by unilaterally changing their strategy,
Right.
assuming the other player's strategy remains the same.
So it's kind of a stalemate. Everyone's making the best choice for themselves, even though it leads to a worse outcome for everyone overall.
Precisely. The Nash equilibrium in the prisoner's dilemma is both players defecting, resulting in those 7-year sentences.
It makes you wonder if there's any way out of this dilemma.
Right.
Can rational players ever find a way to cooperate, even in a situation like this?
That's a question game theorists have pondered for a long time.
Right.
Cooperation can emerge,
Okay.
but it often requires additional factors like repeated interaction,
Uh-huh.
where players can build trust and reputation over time.
So if Alice and Bob knew they would be in similar situations in the future, they might think twice about betraying each other.
Right. The shadow of future consequences can encourage cooperation, even when there's a strong temptation to act selfishly in the moment.
Right.
But there's another interesting twist.
Okay.
What if the game changes
Okay.
and players take turns making decisions?
You're talking about those simultaneous versus sequential games our source mentioned, right?
Exactly.
It seems like that would change the dynamics quite a bit. Okay, so we've explored this prisoner's dilemma where cooperation seems almost impossible.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of shifting gears to these coordination games,
Yeah.
where it seems like working together should be a no-brainer, but is it?
That's the fascinating thing about coordination games. They show that even when everyone would be better off cooperating, it doesn't always happen. They often have multiple stable outcomes, multiple Nash equilibria.
Okay, I'm already sensing some complexity here. Can you give us a real-world example to illustrate these coordination games?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's say you and a coworker are working on a project.
Okay.
If you both put in the efforts, you'll create something amazing and both get big bonuses.
Okay.
If neither of you put in the effort,
Uh-huh.
the project will flop and you both miss out on the bonus.
Okay.
But if one person slacks off while the other does all the work, the slacker still gets some reward
Oh.
while the hard worker gets nothing.
It's like a group project where you're not sure if your teammate is going to pull their weight. Exactly.
Right. You don't want to be the only one stuck doing all the work. But if you both slack off, the project's a disaster. Our source calls this the effort no effort game.
Exactly. And here's the catch. In this game,
Yeah.
both players putting in effort and both players slacking off are both Nash equilibria.
I see that. But wouldn't it be obvious to both players that putting in the effort leads to the best outcome overall? Why wouldn't they just naturally cooperate?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But that's the tricky part about coordination.
Yeah.
each player might be hesitant to put in the effort,
Right.
fearing that the other person will slack off,
Right.
leaving them with the worst possible outcome.
Yeah.
It's the fear of being exploited.
So even in situations where teamwork is ideal, that fear can make people hesitate to fully commit. Our source also mentions that even small changes in the perceived cost of effort can change everything.
Absolutely. If putting in effort feels like a huge burden,
Yeah.
people are less likely to do it, even if the potential reward is high.
Mm.
It's all about weighing the perceived costs and benefits. This reminds me of another game theory concept our source mentioned, the stag hunt. Doesn't that also involve this tension between cooperation and risk?
Absolutely. The stag hunt is a classic example.
Okay.
Players can choose to cooperate to hunt a stag, which yields a high reward if successful,
Okay.
or they can act independently to catch a hare,
Uh-huh.
which guarantees a smaller but certain payoff.
So it's a choice between like a high risk, high reward cooperative strategy
Yeah.
and a low risk, low reward individualistic strategy, kind of like deciding whether to like invest in a risky startup that could take off or stick with a stable but less exciting job.
Exactly. And this illustrates the difference between a Pareto-dominant equilibrium,
Okay.
where everyone gets the best possible outcome, and a risk-dominant equilibrium,
Okay.
where players choose the less risky option,
Yeah.
even if it leads to a less desirable overall result.
So in the stag hunt, cooperating to hunt the stag would be Pareto dominant, but hunting hares independently would be risk dominant. It seems like we're always facing these kinds of dilemmas in real life.
We are. These game theory scenarios give us a framework for understanding the strategic trade-offs involved in our everyday decisions.
Okay, back to the prisoner's dilemma for a second. Is there any hope for escaping that trap? Can we make cooperation more likely even when there's a temptation to act selfishly?
There is some hope,
Okay.
and it lies in repeated interactions. When players know they'll be interacting multiple times, the dynamics change.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. If you know you'll be working with someone again in the future,
Yeah.
you're less likely to throw them under the bus for a short-term gain.
It makes sense. If you burn a bridge today, it might come back to bite you tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's all about building a reputation for being trustworthy and cooperative. But is there any evidence that this actually works in the real world?
Our source mentions a fascinating study where children played a repeated version of the prisoner's dilemma.
Okay.
And guess what? Even kids who we might think are more prone to self-interested behavior
Right.
showed a tendency towards cooperation when they knew they'd be interacting with the same partners again.
So it's not just about cold, calculated rationality.
Right.
There's also this social element at play.
Absolutely.
We care about our reputations and we value those ongoing relationships.
Exactly. And those social factors can be a powerful force in encouraging cooperation, even in competitive environments.
This deep dive has been a real mind bender. We've gone from the depths of betrayal and the prisoner's dilemma to the potential for coagulation and repeated interactions. What are some key takeaways that we should remember as we navigate our own games in the real world?
Well, first and foremost, game theory reminds us that we're constantly engaged in strategic interactions, whether we realize it or not.
Right.
Our choices have ripple effects,
Yeah.
impacting others just as their choices impact us.
It's like we're all players in this giant, complex game of life.
Exactly. Understanding even the basic principles of game theory can help us make more informed decisions in all areas of life.
So it's not just a tool for economists and mathematicians. It's for anyone who wants to be a more strategic thinker, whether they're negotiating a deal, collaborating on a project, or even just deciding where to go for dinner.
Absolutely. And as we've seen, even simple games, like the ones we discuss, can reveal complex dynamics of cooperation, competition, and decision-making.
All right, listeners, I hope you're feeling as intellectually stimulated as I am. We've covered a lot of ground, but this is really just the beginning of the fascinating world of game theory.
It's a field with endless applications and insights. If you're intrigued, I encourage you to explore it further.
Here's a final thought to leave you with. Start paying attention to the games happening all around you.
Right.
Look for the players, the strategies, the payoffs. You might be surprised at how much strategic thinking is going on, even in seemingly mundane situations. And by recognizing those dynamics, you can start to make more informed choices that lead to better outcomes for yourself and for everyone involved.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into game theory.
Until next time, keep those strategic minds sharp, and remember, sometimes the best way to win is to cooperate.